The emergency alert screamed through every speaker in the Galactic Council chamber. Ambassador Thelvis felt his 3 hearts skip in rhythm as the distress message played for the 5th time. His translucent skin flickered with stress patterns that any Sithari would recognize as deep worry. This is Research Station Ellipsis 7. We are under attack. 40 warships have surrounded our position. They are Vrakan clans. Repeat, Vrakan clans. They demand access to the precursor artifacts. We have refused. They will destroy us in 18 hours if we do not comply. We have 347 souls aboard, 12 species. Please help us, please, the message ended. The council chamber fell into heavy silence. Thelvis looked around at the other ambassadors. He saw fear in every face regardless of how many eyes or limbs they possessed. The Vrakan were not simple pirates. They were organized, brutal, and they never left witnesses. Our nearest fleet is 6 days away, said Council Military Director Ventar. His voice was flat, emotionless. The station will be gone in 18 hours. What about the Draknor Armada? They patrol that sector, someone suggested. Engaged in border disputes, they cannot disengage without risking their own worlds. The Unified Defense Force? Too far. Same problem. Thelvis felt his hopes dying with each exchange. 347 people. Scientists, researchers. Good people who were only trying to understand the ancient technologies left behind by the precursors. Now they would die because the galaxy's protectors were stretched too thin. We could negotiate, offered Ambassador Quiln, her voice timid. The Vrakan do not negotiate, Ventar said. They take what they want. If we give them those artifacts, they will have weapons that could threaten entire sectors. We cannot allow it. But we also cannot save those people. The silence returned, heavier than before. Thelvis looked at the star map displayed in the center of the chamber. Little blue dots showed friendly forces. Red showed known threats. And there, isolated in its own yellow zone, was a single system marked with warning symbols. Sector 447, Sol System, Earth. What about them? Thelvis pointed. Every ambassador turned to look. Several made sounds of disbelief or concern. The humans, Ventar said. The Deathworlders. You cannot be serious. They have ships in that area. The database says they have a patrol fleet near their border. It would take them maybe 8 hours to reach Ellipsis 7. They are dangerous, unpredictable. We quarantined their space for good reason. Thelvis stood up, his voice growing stronger. They are also our only option. Send them the distress call. See if they respond. And if they do respond? If they come, what then? Humans are from a Class 12 hazard world, the highest classification. Their planet tried to kill them for millions of years. They evolved to be aggressive, territorial, and violent. We might be inviting a worse threat than the Vrakan. Then we will deal with that problem later. Right now, 347 people need help, and humans are the only ones close enough to provide it. The debate continued for another 20 minutes, but eventually the council agreed. They had no other choice. The message was transmitted toward human space, though nobody really expected an answer. Humans had only made contact with the galaxy 3 years ago. They were still newcomers, still learning the rules. Why would they risk themselves for strangers? 8 hours away in the empty space near the human border, the UES Taguki drifted in a standard patrol pattern. It was not a large ship by galactic standards. Only 400 meters long with a crew of 120. 2 sister ships accompanied it, the Halasan and the Bukan. Together they formed Patrol Group 7, responsible for monitoring the edge of human-controlled space. Captain Day sat in his command chair, reading reports that bored him deeply. Supply manifests, maintenance schedules, diplomatic summaries from Earth. Nothing interesting had happened in 6 weeks. Then the communications officer spoke up. Captain, we are receiving a transmission. It is not human. Day sat up straighter. Put it through. The distress message from Ellipsis 7 played on the bridge speakers. Every crew member stopped what they were doing to listen. When it finished, nobody spoke for 3 full seconds. Where is this station? Day asked. Yuna, his tactical officer, pulled up the coordinates. 7 hours at maximum burn. The station is in neutral space near the Void Rift. What do we know about these Vrakan? Database shows them as hostile. Organized pirate clans. Extremely dangerous. They have 40 ships in that location according to the distress call. 40 against 3, Day said quietly. He looked around his bridge. He saw his crew watching him, waiting for his decision. He saw Yuna with her hands already moving toward the navigation controls. He saw Hanul, their chief engineer, checking power readings in preparation for hard acceleration. He saw Bora, their medical officer, already pulling up casualty protocols. They all knew what he would say. There was never really any doubt. Communications, send a response to that station. Tell them help is coming. Navigation, plot the fastest course. Maximum military acceleration. Engineering, push the reactors as hard as they can take. Medical, prepare for combat casualties. Tactical, war game me some scenarios for engaging 40 hostile vessels. Yes, sir, came back from 5 different voices. The ship shuddered as its massive engines came to full power. The acceleration pressed everyone back into their seats. 3 gravities, 4-5. Most alien species would be crushed by such forces. Humans just gritted their teeth and dealt with it. Una pulled up tactical displays showing the situation at Ellipsis 7. This is going to be bad, Captain. 40 ships. We will be outnumbered more than 13-1. Day smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just spotted prey. Then we will have to be 13 times better than them. Contact the Holocene and Bukan. Full combat coordination. We hit them fast and we hit them hard. What is our primary objective? Asked Lieutenant J, the Marine commander. Save those people. All of them. No matter what it costs. The 3 human ships accelerated through space, burning toward a battle that every tactical computer said they could not win. Behind them, Earth's databases updated with new information. The first human military response to an alien crisis. The first time humans would fight alongside other species. The first time the galaxy would see what Deathworlders could really do. On Ellipsis 7, the scientists watched their chronometers count down. 15 hours until the Vraken deadline. They had received one message in return to their distress call. It came from something called humans, and it said only, "Hold on. We are coming." Nobody knew what humans were, but at least someone had answered. The Vraken warlord Greshtar sat on his command throne and watched the countdown timer with satisfaction. 3 hours remained until his deadline. The research station hung in space before him, helpless and small. His 40 warships surrounded it in a perfect sphere of death. Nothing could escape. Nothing could interfere. His communications officer made a chittering sound of alarm. "Warlord, we detect 3 ships dropping from faster-than-light travel at the system edge." Greshtar barely glanced at the display. 3 ships? Destroy them. I do not wish to be interrupted. But his tactical officer was staring at his instruments with what looked like confusion. "Warlord, these readings are strange. The ships are small, but their energy signatures are extremely high. Their reactors are burning much hotter than normal, so they will explode more impressively when we kill them. Fire at will." On the observation ship safely behind the Vraken lines, Ambassador Thelvas watched his displays with growing hope and terror mixed together. The humans had actually come. 3 ships against 40. It was suicide. Beautiful, noble suicide, but still suicide. He opened a communication channel to the lead human vessel. "Human ship, this is Galactic Council Observer Thelvas. You should withdraw immediately. You are vastly outnumbered." The human captain's face appeared on his screen. Captain Day looked calm, almost relaxed. "Ambassador, we received a distress call. We are here to answer it. Please stay clear of the combat zone. You do not understand. There are 40 warships. You have only 3 ships. This is not a battle you can win." Day smiled. "Watch us." The communication ended. Thelvas felt his hearts racing. Were all humans this crazy? Did they not understand mathematics? The Vraken fleet opened fire. 40 ships launched missiles and energy weapons simultaneously. Space lit up with destruction racing toward the 3 human vessels. It was enough firepower to crack a small moon. The humans would be vaporized in seconds. Except they were not there anymore. The human ships accelerated at angles that made Thelvas gasp. They moved like fighters, not like military cruisers. They pulled maneuvers that should have turned their crews into liquid from the acceleration forces. 8 gravities, 9, 10. Numbers that were simply impossible for organic life to survive. The missile swarm passed through empty space where the humans had been. The human ships were already firing back. Una's fingers danced across her tactical controls. "Target lock on lead elements. Firing railguns." The Taguchi shuddered as its main weapons released. Solid projectiles, magnetically accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. They crossed the distance in heartbeats. Vraken shields designed to stop energy weapons and conventional missiles. did absolutely nothing against solid metal traveling at relativistic speeds. 3 Vraken ships simply came apart, torn into pieces by kinetic impacts. Debris scattered across the battlefield. What just happened? Greshatar roared. How did they do that? His tactical officer was frantically trying to understand. Their weapons are primitive, Warlord. Kinetic projectiles. But the velocities are enormous. Our shields cannot deflect solid matter at those speeds. Then evade, move! But the Vraken ships were designed for overwhelming firepower, not agility. They were slow, heavy, meant to operate in large groups. The human ships were small, fast, and they moved with a coordination that seemed almost telepathic. Captain Day watched his tactical display with cold focus. Hanul, how are the reactors holding? From engineering, Hanul's voice came back stressed but steady. We are at 115% of recommended output. We can maintain this for maybe 20 minutes before we risk core damage. 20 minutes is all we need. Yuna, target their command vessels. Jay, prepare boarding teams. We are going to need to take that station back by force. The 3 human ships split apart, each taking a different vector through the Vraken formation. The Halasan and Bukan mimicked the Taigukki's aggressive tactics. More kinetic rounds tore through Vraken hulls. Point defense systems managed by human reflexes and AI assistants swatted down incoming missiles with frightening accuracy. Thelvis watched in complete disbelief. The humans were not just surviving, they were winning. 6 Vraken ships were now destroyed or disabled. The rest were breaking formation, trying to maneuver, trying to adapt to this completely unexpected fighting style. Greshatar realized with growing horror that he was facing something he did not understand. These small ships moved like they were alive. Their crews endured accelerations that should kill them. Their weapons ignored his shields. And worst of all, they showed no fear, no hesitation. They flew into the teeth of his fleet like they were already dead and just had not noticed yet. All ships converge on the human vessels, overwhelm them with numbers. They cannot dodge forever. The Vraken fleet collapsed inward, 34 ships focusing all their firepower on 3 targets. Space became a storm of energy and metal. Surely nothing could survive this. Yuna saw the tactical situation deteriorating. Captain, they are boxing us in. We need to break through or we will be destroyed. Day's voice was steady. Then we go through them. All ships ramming speed. Target the command vessel. The 3 human ships accelerated directly toward Greshatar's flagship, not evading, not dodging, just straight at him with their reactors screaming and their armor plates glowing from impacts. Greshatar could not believe what he was seeing. They are going to ram us. They are insane. All weapons, fire everything! The human ships took hits, terrible, damaging hits. The Bukan lost its portside armor. The Halasan vented atmosphere from 3 decks. The Taiguki's shields collapsed entirely, but they did not stop. They did not even slow down. At the last possible moment when collision seemed inevitable, all 3 human ships fired their maneuvering thrusters. They passed within meters of the Vraken flagship, their railguns firing point-blank into its hull. The flagship shuddered, systems failing, power flickering, and then the human ships were through, breaking free of the Vraken formation, swinging around for another pass. The battlefield had changed completely. The Vraken had lost their command and control. Ships were firing wildly, hitting each other in the confusion. The pirates had never fought anyone who attacked like this. Who flew like this? Who simply refused to die like this? Captain Day opened a wideband communication channel. His voice echoed to every ship in the system, human and alien alike. Vraken fleet, this is Captain Day of the United Earth ship Taiguki. You have attacked civilians. You have threatened innocents. You have one chance. Withdraw now or we will destroy every single one of your ships. You have 60 seconds to decide. Greshatar wanted to laugh, wanted to mock this arrogant human, but he looked at his tactical display and saw 9 of his ships destroyed, saw his own flagship crippled, saw his fleet in chaos, and he saw 3 human ships, damaged but still fighting, still moving, still ready for more. For the first time in his long career of violence and piracy, Greshatar felt something he had never expected to feel. He felt fear. All ships, he said quietly, withdraw to the station, take defensive positions, bring the hostages to the outer decks. We will use them as shields. The Vraken fleet fell back toward Ellipsis 7. The space battle was over, but the real fight was about to begin. Inside Research Station Ellipsis 7, panic spread through the corridors like wildfire. The scientists had watched the space battle through their observation ports, barely believing what they saw. 3 unknown ships had fought 40 Vrakan warships to a standstill. Now those same Vrakan soldiers were storming through the station, dragging researchers from their hiding places. Pelmus, a young Sithari scientist, found himself shoved into the main observation deck along with dozens of others. Vrakan soldiers pointed weapons at them, their alien faces twisted in expressions that clearly meant violence. Through the windows he could see the 3 human ships holding position, damaged but not destroyed. Greshtar himself appeared, limping from injuries sustained when his flagship took damage. He activated a communication system that would broadcast to both the station and the human ships. Attention, human vessels. I now have 347 hostages on the outer decks of this station. Come closer and I will start killing them. 1 every minute. Withdraw from this system or watch them die. On the bridge of the Teguki, Captain Day listened to the threat in silence. His crew waited for his response. They had fought hard to get here. 9 Vrakan ships destroyed, their own vessels damaged, and now this Yuna spoke quietly. Captain, if we attack, he will kill the hostages. He is not bluffing. I know, Day said. Jay, how fast can your Marines board that station? Lieutenant Jay's voice came back immediately. We have 3 dropships ready. We can breach from multiple points simultaneously. But sir, the Vrakan will have defensive positions. We will take casualties. That is acceptable. What is not acceptable is leaving those people in enemy hands. Prep your teams. Combat loadout. Breach in 5 minutes. In the Marine Bay, Lieutenant Jay and Sergeant Hana organized their soldiers quickly. 30 Marines total across 3 ships, against at least 200 Vrakan soldiers on that station. The math was terrible, but none of them hesitated. Private Sujin checked her weapon for the 3rd time. She was young, only 22 on her first real deployment. She looked at Sergeant Hana, who was calmly putting on her helmet. Sergeant, are we really going to do this? Hana smiled at her. Those people called for help. We answered. Now we finish the job. Stay close to me, watch your corners, and remember your training. We trained for this. We trained to be outnumbered 7 to 1. We trained to win no matter the odds. That is what humans do. The dropships launched from the 3 human vessels, flying low and fast toward the station. Point defense systems tried to shoot them down, but human pilots weaved and dodged with skill that came from flying in Earth's dangerous atmosphere. They reached the station hull and attached with magnetic clamps. Breaching charges exploded simultaneously at 3 different points. The Marines poured through the holes, their powered armor making them look like metal giants in the narrow corridors. The Vrakan were waiting. Weapons fire filled the passageways immediately. Energy blasts and projectiles ricocheted off walls. 2 Marines went down in the first 30 seconds, their armor cracked but not penetrated. They got back up and kept fighting. Jay led his team through the science wing, moving fast and aggressive. The Vrakan had defensive positions, but they were used to fighting other aliens. Other species who would take cover, who would be cautious, who would value their own lives above all else. Humans fought differently. Jay saw a Vrakan position blocking a corridor where civilians were trapped. His team was taking fire from 3 directions. Standard tactics said to fall back and find another route. Instead, Jay charged forward, his armor taking hits that would have killed an unprotected person. He crashed into the Vrakan position like a truck, scattering soldiers with pure momentum and aggression. His Marines followed him through the gap, firing as they advanced. The Vrakan broke and ran. They had never seen anything like this. In another section, Sergeant Hana's team encountered a larger Vrakan force holding a group of scientists hostage. The pirate leader was shouting threats, holding a weapon to a civilian's head. Hana did not slow down. She threw a flashbang grenade, and in the moment of confusion that followed, she crossed 15 meters of open space in 3 seconds. The Vrakan leader died before he could pull his trigger. Hana caught the falling civilian with one hand while shooting 2 more pirates with her other hand. Her team secured the room in under 10 seconds. Private Sujin found herself separated from her unit during the chaos. She stumbled into a room where 5 Vrakan soldiers were executing civilians, killing hostages to deny them to the humans. Something cold and furious exploded in her chest. She was injured, her armor damaged, blood running down her face from a head wound. She attacked anyway. 5 against 1. She should have died. Instead, she moved with speed and violence that shocked the pirates. Her weapon ran empty and she used it as a club. When it broke, she used her armored fists. When a Vrakan blade stabbed through her leg armor, she broke the soldier's arm and took his weapon. By the time Hana's team found her, Sujin was standing over 4 dead pirates and 1 unconscious. She was wounded in 6 places. She should have been down. Instead, she was helping terrified civilians to their feet, speaking softly to them in broken galactic common. Safe now. Humans here. We help. Pelmus watched all this happen in a daze. He had been grabbed by Vrakan soldiers and dragged toward an airlock. He was going to be the first hostage killed, he was certain. Then the walls exploded and armored figures poured through. He thought at first they were rescue robots, some kind of automated system. Then he realized there were people inside that armor. Small people compared to the Vrakan, but they fought with a ferocity that seemed impossible. One of them took 3 direct hits that burned through their armor, and they just kept fighting, kept protecting civilians, kept pushing forward. The armored figure grabbed Pelmus and 2 other scientists, physically lifting them and carrying them away from danger. Through the helmet, Pelmus heard a human voice. "Stay down. Cover your head. We will get you out." Captain Day watched the tactical feeds from his bridge. His Marines were inside the station. They were taking casualties, but they were winning. Slowly, room by room, corridor by corridor, they were clearing the Vrakan out. Greshtar realized too late that his hostage strategy had failed. The humans did not negotiate. They did not hesitate. They simply came in and took the hostages back by force, accepting injuries and damage that would have stopped any other species. He tried to rally his soldiers for a final stand in the command center. 20 of his best warriors heavily armed with fortified positions. Surely they could stop these insane humans. Jay's team breached the command center with the last of their explosives. The firefight was brutal and short. When the smoke cleared, Greshatar found himself staring up at Lieutenant Jay, whose armor was scorched and dented but still functional. "You lose," Jay said simply. Then he knocked the warlord unconscious with a single punch. 2 hours after the boarding began, the station was secure. Every hostage was accounted for. The Vrakan who survived were restrained and under guard. The remaining pirate ships fled the system, abandoning their warlord and running for their lives. In the station's medical bay, human medics worked alongside alien doctors to treat the wounded. There were many wounded. 8 Marines seriously injured, 17 with moderate injuries. All of them would live. Dr. Bora moved from patient to patient with calm efficiency. She stopped to check on Private Sujin, who had finally allowed herself to be treated. The young Marine had taken wounds that should have incapacitated her, but she had kept fighting until every civilian was safe. "You should be dead," Bora said while sealing a particularly bad plasma burn. Sujin managed a weak smile. "Dying is not in my job description, ma'am. Neither is what you did today. You went far beyond your duty. With respect, ma'am, my duty is to protect people who cannot protect themselves. I did my duty. Nothing more." Pelmus overheard this exchange while being treated for his own minor injuries. He stared at the human soldier, trying to understand. These Deathworlders had risked everything for strangers. They had charged into certain danger without hesitation. And now they acted like it was just a normal day's work. What kind of species did this? What kind of world created people like this? He would spend the rest of his life trying to answer those questions. The footage spread across the galactic network like a virus. Every news station, every data hub, every communication channel carried the same images. 3 small human ships facing 40 Vrakan warships. Marines in powered armor charging through weapons fire that should have killed them. Soldiers fighting with injuries that would have dropped any other species. Within 6 hours, every government in the galaxy had seen it. Within 12 hours, it was the only thing anyone was talking about. Within a day, the Galactic Council had called an emergency session that would change everything. Ambassador Thelva stood before the assembled council, still processing what he had witnessed. His voice was steady, but his skin patterns showed his inner turmoil. "I have submitted my full report on the Ellipsis 7 incident. You have all seen the recordings. I will now answer questions." The questions came like a flood. Hundreds of ambassadors all talking at once, all demanding to understand what they had seen. How did such small ships defeat a Vrakan armada? Thelva's pulled up technical data. Human vessels are built to different specifications than ours. Their homeworld has gravity that is 1.4 times galactic standard. Their atmosphere is dense and corrosive by our standards. Their oceans are deep and violent. Everything on Earth is designed to survive extreme conditions. Their ships reflect this: heavy armor instead of shields, redundant systems, and their crews can endure acceleration forces that would kill most of us. But the numbers make no sense. 3 against 40 should be impossible. I thought so too. But I watched it happen. Human tactical doctrine is based on aggression and speed. They do not wait for enemies to come to them. They attack immediately, with overwhelming force at the point of contact. They accept damage that we would consider catastrophic, repair it, and keep fighting. An ambassador from the Quilnar Empire stood up, her voice shaking with emotion. What about the boarding action? I have read your report 3 times and I still do not believe it. 30 Marines against 200 Frackan soldiers? In close quarters? The casualties should have been impossible. Thelvis nodded slowly. It should have been. But human soldiers are trained from childhood to function as a unit. They call it pack tactics. Each soldier knows exactly where the others are, what they are doing, what they will do next. They move like a single organism with multiple bodies, and they do not stop when injured. One of their privates, Sujin, took 6 serious wounds and continued fighting until all civilians were safe. She carried 3 scientists to safety while bleeding from multiple locations. The council chamber fell silent. This single fact seemed to disturb them more than the space battle. The idea that someone would continue fighting while mortally wounded was simply alien to most species. Why would she do that? Someone asked. I asked her myself, Thelvis said. Her answer was simple. She said those people needed help and she had the ability to provide it. Therefore she did. She seemed confused that I would even ask the question. This triggered another wave of discussion. The concept of self-sacrifice was not unknown in the galaxy, but it was rare. Most species valued self-preservation highly. The idea of an entire military culture built on protecting others at personal cost was deeply strange. Council Military Director Ventar stood up, silencing the room with his presence. We must address the real question. Are humans a threat to galactic security? They saved 347 civilians, Thelvis countered. How is that a threat? Because they did it with ease. Because they showed capabilities we did not know they possessed. Because if they can defeat the Vrackan so decisively, what else can they defeat? Ventar pulled up a star map. Earth is quarantined for good reason. Humanity's own history is filled with wars and violence. They nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. Now we have given them access to the galaxy. What if they decide we are their next enemy? The debate raged for hours. Some wanted to increase restrictions on human space. Others wanted to establish formal military alliances. Everyone agreed on one thing. The galaxy's understanding of humanity needed to be revised immediately. Meanwhile, on the Taiguchi, Captain Day was dealing with his own crisis. His ship was damaged, his crew was exhausted, and his communication system would not stop receiving messages from across the galaxy. News organizations wanted interviews. Governments wanted meetings. Military forces wanted tactical consultations. He ignored them all and focused on his people. In the crew mess hall, he sat with his Marines, sharing a meal and checking on their condition. Jay had a broken rib and refused to acknowledge it. Hana had burns on her arms and kept working anyway. Sujin was in medical bay under Dr. Bora's direct supervision because she kept trying to return to duty despite her injuries. We did good work today, Day said quietly. Yuna, sitting beside him with a bandage on her forehead, nodded. We saved a lot of people. But Captain, have you seen the news feeds? The whole galaxy is talking about us. They seem scared. Scared of what? We just did our job. I think that is what scares them, that this is just our job, that we consider this normal. Hanul joined the conversation, his engineering uniform still stained with coolant from emergency repairs. I have been reading the cultural database. Most alien species do not have our history of warfare. Their planets were less hostile. They evolved differently. They think we are violent because we choose to be. They do not understand that we had to be violent just to survive on Earth. The mess hall fell quiet as the crew absorbed this. They were all products of humanity's long and brutal history. A history of ice ages and predators, of diseases and disasters, of wars and struggles that had shaped them into what they were. They did not see themselves as special. They just did what needed to be done. In the medical bay, Pelmis sat beside Private Sujin's bed. The young Marine was sleeping now, her injuries finally treated properly. He had been trying to understand her all day. Trying to understand all of them. Dr. Bora noticed him and came over. "Can I help you with something?" "I am trying to understand," Pelmis said. "Why did she keep fighting? Why did any of you keep fighting? You could have withdrawn. You could have negotiated, but you charged into impossible odds and you won. How?" Bora sat down beside him, her expression thoughtful. "Have you ever read about Earth's history?" "Some. I know your world was classified as extremely dangerous. Dangerous does not begin to describe it. Our planet spent millions of years trying to kill us, predators that could tear us apart, diseases that killed billions, ice ages that covered continents, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun. We survived all of it because we learned to work together. We learned to protect each other even when it was dangerous. We learned that sometimes the only way to survive is to fight no matter the cost. But these people were strangers to you. You did not know them. You owed them nothing." Bora looked at him with genuine confusion. "They asked for help. What else would we do?" This answer seemed to be the standard human response. Pelmis had heard variations of it from every human he had asked. They genuinely did not understand why anyone would not help strangers in need. It was simply who they were. Back on Earth, the global government was receiving reports from their patrol fleet with mixed feelings. Pride that their people had performed so well. Concern about the galactic reaction. Uncertainty about what would come next. The Secretary General called an emergency session. "We need to address this situation carefully. We just demonstrated military capabilities that apparently shock the entire galaxy. How do we prevent them from seeing us as a threat?" The military advisor spoke up. "We do what we have always done. We defend those who cannot defend themselves. We respond to distress calls. We show them through our actions that we are not a threat. We are an ally. The best defense is a good example. And if they still fear us, then we live with that fear. But we do not change who we are because others are uncomfortable with it. Humanity did not survive millions of years by being weak or apologetic." The meeting ended with the decision to maintain current policies. Earth would continue its patrol patterns. It would continue to respond to distress calls. It would continue to be exactly what it had always been. Across the galaxy, in quiet rooms and secret meetings, other decisions were being made. Pirate organizations were reassessing their operations, avoiding any sectors near human space. Criminal enterprises were updating their risk assessments. The Vrakan clans, leaderless and broken, were scattering to distant regions. And in the Galactic Council, Ambassador Thelvas was writing a new proposal. Not restrictions on humanity, not increased monitoring. Instead, he was drafting a formal request for human participation in galactic security operations. If these Deathworlders were going to answer distress calls anyway, the galaxy might as well make it official. Better to have them as allies than as unknown variables. He submitted the proposal and waited for the response he knew would come. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humans. They made terrifying enemies, but they made even better friends. 6 months had passed since the Ellipsis 7 incident, and the galaxy had changed in ways nobody had predicted. Human patrol vessels now operated in 7 different sectors, all by invitation from local governments. Pirate activity in those regions had dropped to almost zero. The mere presence of human ships was enough to make criminals reconsider their career choices. Captain Day stood in the docking bay of the Galactic Council headquarters, adjusting his dress uniform for the 3rd time. Beside him, Yuna smiled at his obvious discomfort. "You faced down 40 warships without breaking a sweat, but a formal ceremony makes you nervous." "Warships, I understand. Politics, I do not." The ceremony hall was enormous, filled with ambassadors and dignitaries from hundreds of worlds. Thelvas had assured them it would be brief, but Day had his doubts. He looked at his crew, all in their dress uniforms, all looking equally uncomfortable. Lieutenant Jay kept checking his collar. Sergeant Hana stood perfectly still, like she was back in boot camp. Private Sujin, still recovering from her injuries but healing well, looked around with wide eyes. Dr. Bora leaned over and whispered, "Try to relax. We are heroes today, remember? I preferred it when we were just doing our jobs." The ceremony began with speeches from various council members, praising the bravery and dedication shown during the rescue operation. Day mostly tuned it out, focusing instead on the faces in the crowd. He saw gratitude there, but also something else, uncertainty, perhaps even fear. The galaxy was still trying to figure out what to make of humanity. Then it was Thelvis's turn to speak. The Sithari ambassador approached the podium, his skin patterns displaying formal respect colors. 6 months ago, I sent a distress call to human space with little hope of response. I was wrong to doubt. Captain Day and his crew showed us something the galaxy had forgotten. They showed us that helping strangers is not a transaction. It is simply the right thing to do. He paused, letting his words sink in. Today we honor these humans not just for their bravery, but for reminding us what heroism truly means. We present them with the Star of Valor, the highest honor the Galactic Council can bestow. The medals were distributed one by one. Each crew member stepped forward to receive their award. The applause was genuine, warm. When it was Sujin's turn, the entire hall stood up. She had become something of a symbol across the galaxy, the young soldier who had fought through impossible injuries to save civilians. She accepted her medal with a simple nod, uncomfortable with the attention. Day understood completely. They had all just done what needed to be done. Nothing more, nothing less. The ceremony was interrupted by an urgent alert. The hall's communication systems activated automatically. A distress signal was being received in real time, broadcast on all emergency channels. Everyone fell silent to listen. This is Colony World Terrason. We are under attack. Unknown hostile force. They are using weapons we have never seen before. Our defenses are falling. We have 4 million civilians. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help. The message repeated. The hall erupted into chaos. Ambassadors shouted at each other. Military advisors pulled up tactical data. The colony was 12 hours away from the nearest fleet. By the time help arrived, it would be too late. Captain Day did not wait for permission. He turned to his crew. Back to the ships. We leave in 5 minutes. Una was already moving. Plotting the fastest course now. Wait, Thelvis called out. Captain, this is not like before. The enemy is unknown. We have no intelligence on their capabilities. You could be flying into something far worse than the Brecken. Day looked at him steadily. Then we better hurry before more people die. He turned to leave, his crew following without question. But something unexpected happened. Across the ceremony hall, other military officers began standing up. A commander from the Draknor Defense Force, a captain from the Quilnar Navy. Leaders from 6 different species, all moving toward the exits. Captain Day, one of them called out. Our ships are docked near yours. We are coming with you. Day stopped, surprised. You do not have to do this. This is not your fight. The Draknor commander, a large reptilian being named Kess, shook his head. You came when we could not. You risked everything for strangers. You showed us what we should have always been. Now we follow your example. Together we can save those people. More officers joined them. Within minutes, 12 different ships had volunteered to join the human fleet. Species that had barely spoken to each other before were now coordinating a joint rescue operation. On the Taigukgi, now leading a combined fleet of 15 vessels, Captain Day addressed his bridge crew. This is different from last time. We are not alone anymore. We need to coordinate with 12 different species, all with different tactics and capabilities. Una pulled up the fleet composition. The Draknor ships are heavy and powerful but slow. The Quilnar vessels are fast but lightly armed. The Sithari have excellent sensors but weak weapons. We need to build a strategy that uses everyone's strengths. Hanel spoke up from engineering. Captain, I am receiving messages from the other ships. Their engineers want to share technical specifications. They are asking for advice on how to push their systems harder like we do. Tell them to be careful. Our ships are built for Earth conditions. Theirs are not. But if they can safely increase performance, show them how. The fleet traveled in formation, all ships pushing their engines as hard as they could safely manage. In the Teguki's strategy room, officers from different species worked together through holographic communications, planning their approach. Lieutenant J studied the limited intelligence they had on the enemy. Whatever is attacking Terrasen, they are using energy weapons that burn through standard shields very quickly. That means close combat will be necessary. Sergeant Hana added, Our Marines can board and fight in close quarters. But we cannot be everywhere at once. We need the other species to contribute ground forces too. Commander Kess nodded. My people are strong and durable. We can fight alongside your Marines. The Quilnar have excellent pilots who can handle fighter support. The Sithari can coordinate communications and keep everyone connected. A strategy emerged. Not just a human strategy, a combined strategy that used each species' unique capabilities. The humans would lead the initial assault with their aggressive tactics and heavy armor. The Draknor would provide heavy fire support. The Quilnar would handle fighter screens. The Sithari would manage fleet coordination. 12 hours passed in intense preparation. When the fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Terrasin, they found a nightmare scenario. 20 massive ships surrounded the colony world, bombarding its surface with weapons that created firestorms visible from orbit. The colony's defenses were in ruins, but this time the response was different. 15 ships representing 7 different species, all working together, all moving with coordinated purpose, all committed to saving those 4 million civilians. Captain Day opened communication channels to the entire fleet. All ships engage when ready. Protect each other. Watch your flanks. And remember why we are here. Those are people down there who need our help. Let us not disappoint them. The battle began. Human ships charged forward with their characteristic aggression. But this time, they had Draknor cruisers backing them up with heavy weapons. Quilnar fighters swarmed the enemy vessels, distracting their point defenses. Sithari coordination kept information flowing perfectly between all ships. The enemy fought back hard. These were not pirates. These were professional military vessels with advanced technology. The combined fleet took damage. Ships were hit. Systems failed. Casualties mounted, but they did not break. They did not retreat because they had learned something from the humans. Sometimes you have to fight through the pain. Sometimes you have to risk everything for others. Sometimes the only way to win is to refuse to lose. On the surface of Terrasan, evacuation centers were being overrun. Enemy ground forces were advancing. Then the dropships arrived. Human Marines alongside Draknor shock troops, fighting side by side to hold the line. Private Sujin, still not fully recovered from her previous injuries, found herself protecting a civilian shelter with a Draknor soldier twice her size. "You humans are crazy," the Draknor growled while firing his weapon. "You should not even be here with your injuries." Sujin grinned behind her helmet. "Crazy is what we do best. Keep firing, I will cover the left side." In orbit, the battle reached its peak. The enemy flagship, seeing the coordinated resistance, attempted to destroy the colony with a massive weapon that would crack the planet's crust. Captain Day saw it charging and made a decision that shocked everyone. "All ships concentrate fire on that flagship. Everything we have." "Yuna ramming course." "Captain, that will destroy us." "Do it." But before the Taguki could execute its suicidal charge, the other ships moved to intercept. Commander Kess's voice came over the channel. "No, Captain. You taught us to fight for others. Now we fight for you. All ships follow my lead." The combined fleet, all 15 ships, charged the enemy flagship together. Not as individual vessels fighting separate battles, but as one unified force. They overwhelmed the flagship's defenses through sheer coordinated firepower. The massive weapon exploded before it could fire, taking the enemy flagship with it.